per 9000's game room.
So what we have here is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for the GameCube. Now, it's quite a late game in the Fire Emblem franchise really, but the thing is, in England and Europe in general, we didn't get the Fire Emblem series in the early days. The SNES ones never made it over here. The first one we got was one of the Game Boy Advance ones. So Path of Radiance, being on the GameCube, would have been most people over here's first taste of a Fire Emblem game on a Nintendo home console. So, for those that don't know what Fire Emblem is, it's a turn-based war strategy game where you choose your units, your weapons and your positions, and then you go to war. And it's a bit chess-like, fantasy chess almost, I suppose. As far as the story goes, it's awesome. You play the role of Ike, son of Grail, who is the leader of a band of mercenaries called the Grail Mercenaries. Without giving too much away, it's a sort of epic sword and sorcery saga. You'll find yourself meeting princesses, trying to liberate a country, you'll find yourself meeting beast people. The game's divided into chapters which consist of pre-battle story followed by battle preparations, followed by the battle itself, and then sort of more post-battle story. And this is the standard layout for each chapter, and it stays this way throughout the whole game. The story's told via mostly still images, with speech bubbles showing you what each character's saying. There's occasional bits of animation, but not a great deal. I have to admit that I'd never heard of Fire Emblem till I brought the original Game Boy Advance one. And I actually got this off a flea market, box complete for £5. And when I brought it, I had no clue what it would be like, what kind of game it was. I simply brought it because I thought for £5 for a box game, if I didn't like it, I'd be able to take it and exchange it for something. And when I started playing it, it instantly reminded me of the Konami game on PlayStation 1, Vandal Hearts, which I'd rented a lot as a youngster and been a massive fan of. And I actually thought to start with that Fire Emblem was a bit of a rip-off of Vandal Hearts. But it just shows you that, you know, when you live in a country in Europe and you're only seeing part of what gets released, and remember there was no internet like there is now back when I was young, you miss bits and bobs of series because they're only released in certain regions, and you don't kind of see the picture of how things progress and build up. You only see the odd title that comes to your shores. Despite loving the Game Boy Advance one, I didn't pre-order the GameCube one or get it on release. I was lucky enough that a guy that I used to work with had brought it on day of release for £40, finished it 2 weeks later and lent it me. And yet from the moment I started playing it, this was very much my favourite GameCube game. And it was just everything about it, the graphics, the sound, the gameplay, the story. I just couldn't put it down. And I had to go out and rush and find my own copy, because finishing this game once wasn't enough for me. I knew that even when I'd finished it and I gave it back, I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about the game. And it's actually from this point on that I've been like pre-ordering every Fire Emblem game as they're heading to come out. Now, obviously, there's Fire Emblem games that I'm more and less attached to. I love the original Game Boy Advance one, I love Awakening on the 3DS, but probably the GameCube Fire Emblem is my absolute favourite, because I'm a massive fan of the character Ike, and I love the Grail Mercenaries. They've got this very family connection. They feel like... It feels like you're seeing real friendships and camaraderie evolve. And to me, that's the key of what makes Fire Emblem a great game. It's the relationships between different characters, and it's the way these grow and change over the length of the game. And the music in the game, it's so... it like makes feelings awaken in you. It goes through motions of starting softly and then progressing and crescendoing. It just feels alive, and it's crazy how much the soundtrack adds to this game. I would have to say that definitely Fire Emblem is my favourite GameCube game, and I'd heartily recommend that everybody try it. Granted, it's a very hard to find, expensive game to get hold of. It's not something you can pick up for a tenner to see if you like it. So, might sound bad, but in this case I'm definitely recommending that you try a little bit of emulation. Maybe try an earlier Fire Emblem game first, like one of the Game Boy Advance ones, or if you've got a 3DS, look for Fates or Conquest, which don't seem to be a lot of money now, and there'd be nice starting points to see if you like this kind of game before looking at investing what's almost £200 on a GameCube game. Okay, if I was to give Fire Emblem a score out of 10, this is one of the very rare cases where I would give it 10 out of 10. It's an amazing game. That's Kerr9000 signing off saying keep on gaming.